When your phone goes silent right after hopeful messages, it feels as though someone is squeezing your heart. You find yourself asking, why did he return only to disappear again? This isn't an isolated incident, it's the shared pain of millions who fell in love with someone with an avoidant attachment style. When you open your eyes in the morning, the emptiness inside weighs even heavier than the relentless rain outside. You try to stay calm, but every heartbeat echoes. Is this real or just another cruel prank? We live in an era of 24/7 connection. Yet paradoxically, it's that very accessibility in messaging that makes silence so excruciating. A casual, "Hey, how are you?" on a Tuesday afternoon can ignite a flicker of hope. But days later, with no reply, you find yourself adrift in a sea of unread notifications. You start to doubt yourself. Am I too much? Am I being too needy? According to psychologist John Bowlby, the wounds of childhood attachment linger throughout our lives, compelling us to create our own hidden rules to shield against future pain. Yet when these rules become shackles, aren't we sabotaging our ability to trust and love? So how do you recognize the 3 tests an avoidant ex employs before they truly come back? How can you avoid being trapped in an exhausting push-pull cycle? Stay tuned, because in this very moment, we will dive through the heart of your pain, decode the subconscious rules at play, and emerge with a solid strategy not to cling to the past, but to rebuild your self-worth and prepare to embrace a genuinely secure, loving connection. When you experience the complete silence test, the scenario often looks painfully familiar. They text you first, sometimes even initiate with surprising enthusiasm, only to vanish afterward as if they had never been there. No reply, no explanation, no continuation. For someone with an anxious attachment style, this feels like a free fall, your mind racing with questions. Did I do something wrong? Do they not like me anymore? Am I too much for them to handle? Yet this silence is not always rejection. More often, it is a deep-seated defense mechanism rooted in unconscious beliefs formed long before adulthood. Attachment theory, first proposed by John Bowlby, 1969, emphasizes that early experiences with caregivers strongly shape how we approach intimacy later in life. A child who repeatedly experiences rejection or emotional wounding when reaching out for closeness often internalizes a hidden belief. Every time I move closer, pain follows. This belief becomes the foundation of their defense system. Silence, then, becomes one of the most effective tools to regulate closeness. On a neurological level, research by Mikulincer and Shaver, 2007, shows that avoidant attachment often activates a down-regulation mechanism, cooling down, numbing emotions whenever intimacy feels overwhelming. They don't disappear because love has ended, but because closeness triggers an inner alarm, and retreating feels like the safest way to reduce emotional pressure. From the outside, such behavior may look like indifference, irresponsibility, or even a manipulative power game. But inside their psychology, silence is not casual cruelty, it is survival. Imagine a child who has been bitten too many times for reaching out. Now, as an adult, they disappear to protect themselves from rejection. Consciously, they may not recognize it, but unconsciously, this silence carries an old fear. If they remain close, they risk being engulfed or abandoned all over again. The crucial point here is that their silence does not necessarily reflect your worth or how much they care for you. It reflects their inner battle with unhealed wounds. In therapeutic language, this is a trauma response, a survival mechanism to old pain, not a verdict that you are not enough. If you choose to chase, send multiple texts, or anxiously try to break their silence, you don't bring them closer. You reinforce their core belief that closeness equals pressure, equals danger. That's why the best response is to anchor yourself. Don't panic, don't chase, but continue living your life. A securely attached person interprets silence not as judgment, but as a message. They are self-regulating. From that secure place, you can calmly set your boundaries. I respect your need for space, but I also need clarity in our connection. If you're ready to return, I'll be here, but I won't pause my life waiting. This protects your own heart while offering them a new experience, that closeness does not automatically equal pressure or loss of control. These safe boundaries are what give the relationship a real chance to grow. By understanding the root cause, we can shift perspective. from seeing silence as rejection to recognizing it as the avoidant partner's breathing space. Yet that space only holds value if you don't lose yourself in it. Use it as time to return to yourself, read, nurture passions, take care of your mental well-being. When you stand firm in your own life, you not only protect yourself from desperate waiting, but also radiate a safe energy, something their unconscious can sense. After exploring the hidden mechanism behind the complete silence test, we begin to see that it is only one piece of a larger defensive pattern in avoidant attachment. Sometimes avoidance does not arrive as total silence, but as a constant oscillation, warm and affectionate one moment, distant and cold the next. This is what we call the hot and cold test, a deeply confusing experience for those on the receiving end, because it leaves you unsure which version of them is real. In reality, this hot and cold pattern is not a game of power, but a manifestation of their internal struggle. When they are warm, caring, open, engaged, it is because they are taking a genuine emotional risk, allowing their heart to open. But the very act of opening triggers their subconscious alarm. Too close, danger ahead, you will get hurt. And almost reflexively, they shift into coldness, withdrawing to restore their sense of control. This oscillation is exhausting not only for the partner but also for the avoidant themselves. They long for connection yet fear the pain it may bring. They crave love but fear losing their autonomy. Bartholomew and Horowitz, 1991, described this avoidant style as a paradoxical tension, where the need for intimacy and the need for independence are in constant conflict. Warmth represents the pull of attachment. Coldness represents the push of defense. Both extremes coexist within the same inner battle. Those who experience the hot and cold test often feel emotionally whiplashed. When warmth appears, it feels like a door opening hope, love, closeness. Just as you begin to relax, the door slams shut. Coldness, indifference, withdrawal. It feels like riding an emotional roller coaster, up and down with no stable ground. Without inner stability, this very oscillation can trigger your own fears of abandonment, pulling you into the same anxious spiral of chasing and clinging. Yet here lies the essential truth. Both the warmth and the coldness are authentic parts of them. Warmth is not a trick. It's a moment where they overcome fear and allow intimacy. Coldness is not rejection. It's fear taking the wheel, pulling them back into safety. Seeing this, you no longer label them as two-faced, but recognize these as two sides of the same inner conflict. So how should you respond to this hot and cold cycle? The key is to remain calm and emotionally steady. When they are warm, don't idealize the moment or assume their fears are gone. Enjoy it, but stay grounded. When they are cold, don't panic or rush to interpret it as rejection. See it as a signal that they are self-regulating. In both states, your steadiness becomes the anchor that helps them feel safer. In other words, you don't need to adjust to their oscillations. You need to maintain your own rhythm. You are the stable beat. They are the fluctuating rhythm. If you oscillate along with them, the cycle spirals endlessly. But if you remain steady, they gradually sense that there is a safe space, one where they can oscillate without judgment, coercion, or destabilizing you. This creates the unconscious foundation for trust. Boundaries also play a crucial role. Calmness does not mean limitless tolerance. You can say, I appreciate the warmth, but I also need stability to feel safe. If the fluctuations become too frequent, I'll need to step back and care for myself. This is not an attack, but a clear boundary. It protects you while sending them a healing message that closeness can exist within safety without loss of control. Seen from a wider lens, the hot and cold test is not only about a single relationship, but about the avoidant's lifelong inner journey, trying to reconcile the longing for intimacy with the fear of hurt. When you understand this, you stop personalizing the cycle. Instead of thinking, they're cold because I'm not good enough, you can think, they're struggling with their own inner world. That shift in perspective moves you from being a passive victim to being an empowered responder. After exploring the complete silence and hot and cold tests, we begin to notice a shared root. All are driven by a hidden fear of closeness. Avoidants do not hate connection, but deep inside, they carry a belief that the closer they get, the greater the risk of hurt. And when this fear reaches a point they cannot control, another pattern often emerges: the boundary push test. This is when they no longer just oscillate between warmth and distance, but instead state boundaries that seem discouraging for the relationship. I need time. I don't want commitment. I'm not sure what I want. At the same time, they may still compliment you, saying you are kind, wonderful, worthy, yet they deliberately push you away. At first glance, this seems contradictory. If they think highly of you, why not move forward? But under the lens of attachment psychology, this is a logical defense. Research by Brennan, Clark, and Shaver, 1998, shows that avoidants often form a relational script where commitment equals loss of autonomy. In other words, the moment commitment enters, it feels like being trapped in a cage. Thus, when they sense closeness approaching too strongly, they respond by declaring boundaries to restore a sense of safety. The boundary push is not an outright rejection of feelings, but rather a coded signal. I feel pressure. I need to slow down. However, for someone with anxious attachment, this signal is easily misread as absolute rejection. Panic often follows trying to persuade, prove worth, or beg them to reconsider. But the more you try, the more you reinforce their belief. That commitment always means pressure, that others will always attempt to control them. In truth, the boundary push is an indirect invitation for you to demonstrate steadiness. When they say, "I don't want commitment," the healthy response is neither despair nor clinging, but calm respect. "Thank you for being honest. I understand and respect that." This protects your dignity while sending them an unspoken message that you are not a threat, you are not trying to impose, and you are mature enough to handle differences in pace. This sense of safety can sometimes create the very space they need to reconsider. It is also important to distinguish between genuine boundaries and defensive ones. Genuine boundaries reflect legitimate needs, time to focus on work, healing, or personal growth. Defensive boundaries are unconscious reflexes to reduce emotional pressure. Both deserve respect, but your response will differ. With genuine boundaries, you must ask yourself clearly, does this relationship align with my values and needs? With defensive boundaries, maintaining calm instead of persuading may itself become healing for avoidance. Rarely encounters someone who can respect their space without either abandoning them or clinging harder. Remember, the boundary push is not always the end. It is often a test to see, will you accept their need for freedom, or will you force them to live under your expectations? In other words, it is a test of your emotional safety. That safety shows up only when you respect both them and yourself. If you respond with panic, they retreat further. If you respond with cold indifference, they feel invalidated. But if you respond with calm, respect, and clarity, you stand out as someone different, someone who shows that closeness can exist without being a threat, that love can coexist with freedom. And this is the heart of it. Avoidants are not afraid of love itself. They are afraid of losing their freedom. When love comes with respect and safety, their capacity to open up grows significantly. After walking through the 3 tests: complete silence, hot and cold, and boundary push, we can see the common root. All these behaviors, however confusing or even hurtful on the surface, stem from a larger frame subconscious beliefs formed out of painful early experiences. A child who once learned that closeness brings disappointment, rejection, or control grows up with an inner script. The closer I get, the more dangerous it becomes. This is a survival mechanism where the brain wires intimacy to danger. Thus, whenever closeness feels overwhelming, the avoidance system is triggered like an unconscious alarm. This also explains why the 3 tests are not deliberate psychological games meant to hurt you, but natural operations of their nervous system under stress. Silence is a tool to cool things down. Hot and cold reflects the tug of war between desire and fear, and boundary pushing is their attempt to preserve autonomy. None of this is about manipulation, it's about survival in a world where intimacy has long been coded as threat. Without seeing the bigger picture, we easily fall into the spiral of self-blame or anxious chasing. We think, I'm not enough, I must fix them, convince them, make them commit. Yet the harder we try to fix them, the more we reinforce the very fear they live with. The fear of pressure, control, and loss of self. The solution is not to carry their fear, but to anchor in your own value. A securely attached person does not try to become their partner's healer or therapist, nor do they lose self-respect by tolerating every oscillation. Instead, they stand firm, calm in the silence, steady in the hot and cold, respectful when boundaries are set. And in that stance, an invisible message is communicated. My presence is safe. I don't chase. I don't abandon. I can withstand the storm, and you can test closeness without being engulfed. It is this steadiness that begins to shift the avoidance core belief. They start to experience something new, that closeness doesn't always lead to pain, that connection can exist where both freedom and individuality are preserved. This is a turning point in healing, not just for them, but also for you. Because instead of drowning in anxiety, you learn to embody emotional safety not through promises or control, but through your very stability. At this point, we can flip the perspective. Instead of seeing the 3 tests as storms thrown at you, see them as opportunities to practice your own maturity. Each time they go silent, you practice tending to your own needs instead of spiraling into fear of abandonment. Each time they go hot and cold, you practice holding steady instead of riding the roller coaster. Each time they push boundaries, you practice respect without losing yourself. Each of these moments becomes emotional training, strengthening you into someone unshakable. In the end, change does not come from persuasion or pulling them closer. It comes from your steady presence. You don't need to say much or prove anything. You simply keep living your life with balance. Keep loving without losing your boundaries. Keep offering warmth without turning it into pursuit. In doing so, you become the one who quietly plants a new belief in them. Maybe closeness isn't as dangerous as I thought. Maybe love can coexist with freedom. Maybe I can stay. When we finally see the bigger picture, where the 3 tests are not games but defense patterns rooted in the subconscious belief, closeness equals danger, we arrive at a turning point. This is the stage of revelation and healing. Up until now, we have observed and analyzed, but now comes the deeper question: how do we break the cycle? The truth is, avoidants don't actually want distance. They simply haven't experienced the reality that intimacy can be safe, that love doesn't always mean control or loss. The revelation comes when we shift perspective. Instead of viewing them as hard to love, we see that they are living with an unhealed wound. Each silence, hot and cold shift, or boundary push is not an attack against you, but a shield to protect themselves from old memories. When you see this, you stop personalizing their actions as rejection and begin to understand inside them lives a child who was once hurt, still fighting not to be hurt again. That understanding is the key that unlocks change. Yet healing never means becoming their rescuer. You cannot and should not carry their wounds for them. What you can do is create a safe environment where you both love and respect your own boundaries. Therapist Sue Johnson, developer of EFT, emotionally focused therapy, has emphasized that avoidants don't open up because of promises or logic, but through repeated experiences of safety. I can be close and not be consumed. I can be loved and still be myself. Such experiences only emerge when you embody steadiness, calm, and healthy boundaries. That means each time they go silent, you don't collapse, you return to yourself. Each time they swing hot and cold, you don't chase, you stay steady. Each time they push you away with boundaries, you don't beg, you respond with respect. Small as these actions may seem, repeated over time, they create new neural experiences. Intimacy paired with safety. This is the process of rewiring, gradually reshaping deep-seated beliefs. More importantly, healing is not just for the avoidant, it is for you too. By learning to stand firm in the face of these tests, you also heal your own fear of abandonment, your old belief that I'm only lovable if I try hard enough. You realize that true love is not chasing or clinging, but building together a space where both can exist freely as themselves. And when you shift how you stand in the relationship, the energy of connection changes. The avoidant may slowly lower their armor, because this time, they are not facing someone who pressures or abandons, but someone who knows how to love without losing dignity. This is the moment of revelation, when the cycle closeness equals danger is challenged by a new experience. Closeness equals safety. Of course, this journey is not quick. They may still go silent, swing hot and cold, or push boundaries. But instead of seeing these as failures, you can see them as training grounds for both of you. Each time you meet a test with steadiness, you plant a seed of trust. And one day, that seed grows into a new belief that love can be both deep and free, both connected and safe. This is the final essence of healing. You don't need a perfect script to prove everything is fine. You only need to be steady to love without fear, to respect without distance. By embodying secure attachment, you not only offer the avoidant a chance to change, but you also give yourself the gift of growth, transforming love from an anxious spiral into a shared space of nourishment and healing. In the end, love is not a battle of winners and losers, nor a chase between anxiety and avoidance. True love can only exist when each person stands firmly in their own value, able to give warmth, yet also hold healthy boundaries. When you stop trying to fix someone and instead choose to embody safety and stability yourself, you not only create the space for them to heal, but also begin a healing journey within your own heart. Because real love, at its core, is not the place where we lose ourselves, it is the place where we finally find ourselves.